I love this game, not for its narrative or gameplay, God no, but as a monument to artistic destruction. Think of all those ancient statues in museums that are missing arms, heads, or other, significant anatomy. You can't imagine them as complete statues because you've never seen them whole. Whatever the original intent of the artist was, has been irrevocably changed by the damage. The destruction of art by someone else's disdain for it redefines the original work's intent into a new form of art. Those who cracked the whip for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League held such sheer animosity for the inherited legacy of the Arkham series, it's as if they were handed the Mona Lisa and decided what it really needed was a mustache. Look, I'm taking the high road here with this comparison. My original script had me comparing the devs to mothers suffering from postpartum depression and cooking their baby in a microwave. Watching Rocksteady, a studio once revered for perfecting the superhero game genre, conscripted into dedicating the better part of a decade into making this live service superhero looter shooter, and obligated to spend at least the next 2 years watering this weed with seasonal updates on the demands of Warner Brothers, is akin to watching artists sculpt a sandcastle with the tide coming in. The effort is there, the dedication is unmistakable, but the outcome is inevitably shaped by forces beyond their control. I won't beat around the bush. I wanted this game to be a disaster, and I'm happy to report my prayer was enthusiastically answered. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is not just a bad game, it has set a new benchmark for failure. This game isn't just a product, it's a message, a cautionary tale that should not be forgotten but instead remembered as the moment we collectively realized to question the wisdom of transforming beloved single-player narratives into endless live service sagas, especially when such attempts not only fall short of expectations, but plummet into the chasm of infamy even when helmed by lauded developers like Rocksteady. The demands for a successful live service game are simply too high for the industry to produce more than a handful every few years. It's not only gambling for the players, they are a roll of the dice for the developer as well. Suicide Squad begins in medias res, a Latin phrase that translates to in the middle of, except the medias here isn't in the game as of yet and will be added as future content, since this is depicting events sometime after the end of the game upon release. If Latin were still kicking around as a living language, we might have petitioned for a new phrase that encapsulates the blend of anticipation and sheer exasperation this strategy evokes, something that conveys the feeling of opening a book only to find the conclusion will be mailed to you after purchase, at an additional cost of course. The team is split up and need to regroup, so you get a turn controlling each of them to help you familiarize yourself with their traversal mechanic, which is the only defining gameplay feature they possess. You have the now mysteriously black Deadshot, Harley Quinn, having completed her character transformation from parasocial Joker Orbiter into a quirky sleep paralysis demon with an OnlyFans account, Captain Boomerang, an Australian who serves as the now standard white male comic relief character, and finally Drax but a shark. I was honestly more impressed with Square Enix's attempt at making the Avengers into a live service game. At least that featured individual playstyles for each character, and didn't revolve around trying its best to resemble Fortnite, of which half of these characters are already in that game or will be eventually. But Warner Brothers demanded its own attention deficit disorder shooter. For a game about controlling a group of supervillains with unique abilities, you don't do much but shoot guns with all 4 of them. The developers tried to mix things up by applying some of the more rhythm-based fighting elements from the Arkham games, but there's only so much you can do with a trigger pull and basic weapon variety, such as when an enemy glows blue during a very slow wind-up animation. You're supposed to stun them by shooting them with your blue counter bullet, because real bullets can't stun people, which leaves them open to a melee attack that will cause them to explode in a shower of brightly colored shield points. Combat suffers due to lack of scenario variety in my opinion. Every engagement is another rendition of fighting a group of enemies on top of a rooftop until you've shot all of them, completed the objective of shooting everything while a timer counts down, or collected enough glowing points from dead enemies that you've shot. There's 0 stealth moments. Everyone gets around the environment equally as well since they're all designed to cross rooftops and nothing but rooftops, and there are no moments that play to one character's strengths in particular, just a homogenized slop that is a fault of live service gameplay design. Australians piss and are stupid. It seems there's some cultures it's still okay to make fun of with gross stereotypes.
I had your personal shields modified. No automatic recharge. Every second you spend hiding behind cover is wasting my time.
Waller must really want them to live up to the name Suicide Squad if she won't allow them to use cover. Also, this is taking place well after the beginning of the game, where their shields also don't automatically recharge. So I have no idea what Waller is talking about when she claims to have had them modified to behave differently. Brainiac ends the current run because they have to save the rest of this for the DLC in the coming months. Hadn't Arkham Asylum been abandoned by the end of Arkham Knight? Scarecrow held a live TV event there for the unmasking of Batman.
My name is Amanda Waller.
I am the director of Argus.
Waller appeared at the end of Arkham Origins to recruit Deathstroke, threatening him with that if he didn't work for her, his boss fight in Arkham Knight would be a lame tank battle with the Batmobile. Her appearance and voice has changed somewhat since then, and she now has to fight the urge to launch her eyeballs from her skull at all times. According to the newspapers on the wall, this Deadshot killed the old Deadshot who somehow had a 99% DNA match despite being white. How did they explain that when in court, by the way? Your Honor, my client can't be guilty because he only killed himself, as the DNA evidence clearly shows. Even in prison, an Aussie's only dream is pissing. What are Deadshot and Captain Boomerang even doing in Arkham? This place is for the criminally insane, not perfectly sane criminals. That's what Blackgate is for.
Harley Quinn, Arkham Gazette. Just a quick question. What's with the frickin' shark?
Harley personally knows a crocodile man, another man made of mud, and a plant lady, but a shark man is a step too far.
This is a microbomb injector from our friends at LexCorp. Stick it in your target's neck, and it's good night. You want this to be where you take your last breath? No? Then help me.
If you had your pick of anyone in Arkham to take on the Justice League, why would you pick these four, three of which who have already been defeated by members of the Justice League?
Isn't Deadshot supposed to be white?
He was. But according to the new lore of this game, that Deadshot was an imposter from a different universe, which means that Batman, the world's greatest detective, was completely fooled by the imposter Deadshot despite the massive difference in appearance.
Aren't you supposed to be shutting your damn mouth? Kangaroo-looking ass.
Because you are Australian.
Was there a New Zealander on the writing team or something?
If no one goes for the bomb, Waller comes back in here, sees she's not dealing with four screw-up psychos. We all get out.
Or she knocks you all out and injects you with bombs anyway, which is what she should have done in the first place. I don't get the reasoning for leaving the team to chip each other with neurobombs instead of doing it herself while they were restrained. First, there's no guarantee they would all end up chipped, and second, it would just make the team hate each other more and lead to them being unable to work together.
Tight spaces. Breathe.
Deadshot has a phobia of tight places. Luckily for him, he's in a game that takes place mostly on rooftops outside, so I'm not even sure why he has this phobia. It's never relevant in the game.
Still, sure is nice to be out of Arkham. Thanks, douchebags.
Well, we could have started a riot like normal people.
How do super criminals normally get out of Arkham? None of them ever seem as if they could pass a psych evaluation and be determined safe for release. Why are they even in the front car of this train? Autopilot works best when people can't brake it, and would breaking the emergency brake cause the train to accelerate anyway? If it's on autopilot, it shouldn't do anything. The game begins with a train wreck. I don't really have anything else to add. That statement is both literal and figurative.
What is it?
Can you feel that?
That wasn't inside King Shark on the train, but even if it happened during the crash, Waller didn't need to strap the recorder to a knife in the first place.
If you're hearing this, at least one of you made it to the area of operations alive.
No thanks to the shark. Silence, Australian.
Comms don't function that deep underground.
That was sweet of Waller. She paused in her recording because she knew the team would have something to say and didn't want to interrupt.
These are your orders. Ignore them, split up, or piss me off in any way, and I pull the trigger on the microbombs you so helpfully implanted in one another's skulls.
If radio comms don't work this far underground, how exactly would you detonate the bombs in their skulls remotely? This is a terrible elevator. It takes you a good 20 feet or more up into the air in the center of the Hall of Justice. Any normal person would be stuck up there if they used it. Has the Justice League never heard of display models? They kept a gauntlet that lets you use the Speed Force, a fully fueled jetpack, and a functional bat grapple and bat drone inside a glass case with no alarm inside a public hall. From the display case, Harley gets Batman's old toys that let her swing everywhere. Deadshot takes a jetpack, and Boomerang gets a Speed Force gauntlet which lets him warp to his toss boomerang. Meanwhile, King Shark already has the power to jump really good. I have no idea why a shark's sole superpower would be based around jumping. All of these abilities are only for moving around, because for some reason this game decided to have you spend most of your playtime jumping from rooftop to rooftop. Ironically, I think I spent more time on the ground as Batman in the Arkham games than I did here due to the lack of indoor environments. If the only thing that differentiates each character is their traversal gear, couldn't Waller have gotten anyone for this mission? There's no specific ability that makes these four an attractive option.
Before I joined the League, I relied on these cowls to keep my identity top secret. Each one is lined with lead, so no one can peek under them. Not even Superman.
I'm pretty certain Superman is the only person that lead-lined cowls would have mattered to before Bruce's identity was revealed.
I was born Bruce Wayne, citizen of Gotham.
After Bruce faked his death once Scarecrow revealed his identity to the world, he then unfaked his death to join the Justice League, making the ending of Arkham Knight completely pointless. Brainiac parked his skull ship over Metropolis and took over. For someone who's a 12th level intellect, he doesn't understand subtlety in design, or how tacky a skull ship is.
We're sending a signal transponder to your location. Your orders are to activate that transponder.
Our first of many, way too many, defend the object missions.
Brainiac's the one finally bringing order to this world, making a home for his people. All this, soon it'll be a new planet Kolu. That's been my mission for what, 3 weeks now?
A mind-controlled Justice League isn't exactly a new plotline. However, either the writers missed the story parallel they accidentally created, or they just didn't care. But either way, it's weird not to mention even once how Brainiac and Waller are doing exactly the same thing, controlling a group of people against their will to do things they wouldn't normally. I'm not a comics guy, but I know enough about the Green Lantern to understand that his powers are based off courage and willpower, and the loss of those means the loss of his powers. Being mind-controlled by Brainiac and committing genocide should have his Green Lantern ring abandon him. Flash, one of only 2 Justice League members not converted by Brainiac, stops Green Lantern from killing you. He could have also taken the opportunity to slip that Green Lantern ring off his finger, but I guess Flash never read Batman's original contingency plan for the Green Lantern. Instead, he essentially kicks his own ass by running straight into the Green Lantern's construct.
Wait, we were looking for Flash? I can find Flash.
Keep talking.
Well, I've got a kind of, Speed Force simpatico. And there's a sensor in this gauntlet.
This makes the brainwashed Justice League that much dumber for not tracking down the Flash before today.
Our enemies come again.
Worst dirty movie I ever saw.
Somebody find the back entrance.
Best dirty movie I ever saw.
Harley's dialogue is in line with your basic Twitch chatter. This game is so disconnected from the Arkham series that they had to build an entire Batman experience to convince you that it's the same world. Why does Boomerang get hung up on cutting off one of Flash's fingers? He was about to shank Flash but suddenly panics when he injures him. Either finish the job or don't go for it at all.
Don't sweat it. Batman doesn't kill people.
Batman spent all of Arkham Knight working to avoid having his mind taken over by the Joker, only for his mind to be taken over by Brainiac off-screen. In the world of comics, you can get away with writing the same plot over and over again. You can even get away with disrespecting characters. But in games, which take way longer to make and people invest far more time into, erasing the accomplishments of the character and the player for a cheap hook in a worse follow-up game is low. This is the only moment of the game I think I enjoyed. You essentially play out the role of the thugs you were silently taking down as Batman in the Arkham game's stealth moments. Unfortunately, the rest of the game is also like playing those same thugs, only they succeed in killing Batman because Batman is an idiot for the rest of the game. I'm pretty certain that bullet went through Harley's skull given that she moved her head after the impact flash which was behind her head. If you can just beat the crap out of the Flash with your fist, the amount of effort the game has you go through to fight him later seems excessive. They act like shooting the guy is impossible after he's turned evil. Fingerprint scanners long ago figured out how to ensure a severed body part wouldn't work for opening the door. It requires both a pulse and an electrical charge.
I'm getting the hell out of here, and this map is gonna tell me how.
What's keeping you in Metropolis is the bomb inside your skull, and that map won't help you with that.
Computer, activate the threat assessment matrix. What? You tough guys never seen a bat computer?
Have you? Batman didn't exactly invite you into the Batcave.
You can... Wow. Ah, no lasso? You gotta be kidding me.
Harley has an inexplicable crush on Wonder Woman. She has very competing tastes in men and women.
Step on me next.
The humor in this game can be defined as professional subreddit comments.
She won't do what needs to be done. Can't do it. Too damn honorable. That's where you come in. Task Force X. Your new mission is to kill the Justice League.
If it weren't for plot armor, I'd say Task Force X has a better chance of surviving the bombs in their heads than the corrupted Justice League. I'm surprised they're so incredulous over the order. Deadshot and Boomerang have both talked about killing Green Lantern and Flash, and Harley has gone all out trying to kill Batman multiple times.
I knew this day might come. And you better believe I prepared.
The hell you did. Your plan amounts of 4 criminals shooting the Justice League to death.
My body's the only home I've got left. But really, I'm in the cloud 24/7 now.
Hack is exactly the type of consumer this game is targeting. I do wonder what therapy Harley received back in Arkham. She managed a breakthrough getting over Joker, along with wearing less sexualized outfits, but yet managed no improvement on her violent psychosis. Who zips their pants up after fastening their belt? In the time it took the other three to put on clothes, Harley was able to steal some clothes from the Argus staff, alter them with studs and dye, which had time to dry, and put them on.
Yeah, looking forward to killing the Justice League and all, but, well, you know, these guns are a bit shit.
Such is the issue with live service games. All you can do is shoot and chase bigger numbers. There's no interesting weapons to be found here, just better allocation of statistics and applying status effects. If you're going to make a game this dedicated to shooting everything, it's standard to have some fun guns that do interesting things beyond the basic SMG, assault rifle, sniper rifle, shotgun, pistol, and minigun.
You want to last more than 10 seconds against the League? Cobblepot's been running anti-meta weapons for years.
Now if you're me, the first question that enters your head is which metahumans have these weapons been used on to prove their worth? Because last time I checked, no one in the Justice League has been harmed or killed by them. And how come he never made anti-meta weapons back in Gotham? Would have served him well back there given the amount. Lois Lane somehow manages to hack into the screens all over Metropolis using her phone so she can report on what's going on to a city full of monsters and no people as far as I can tell. Get your message out to the wider world, lady. In the Arkham games, the bottle stuck in Penguin's eye was clear. Now it's green. Are you telling me he removed the other one, then jammed a new broken bottle into his eye socket? They stick Penguin with a neurobomb and force him to make guns back at base. That's really the extent of Penguin's role in the game. He's like a shorter, less business-savvy version of Resident Evil 4's Merchant. Similar accent too.
Riddle me this. What has 4 unexploded heads thus far and belongs up with the radio star?
Everyone keep quiet. I ain't chasing a bunch of riddles and bullshit.
Perhaps it's time to do something new with the Riddler, because this has been the reaction outside the game as well. Riddler is here in Metropolis up to his old tricks again, but this time decided to match wits with the Suicide Squad. He went after Batman because he saw him as a worthy adversary due to his intelligence. You can't tell me that he thinks these 4 are worth the effort of placing puzzles all over Metropolis during an alien invasion, especially when Batman, Lex Luthor, and Brainiac, a 12th level intelligence, are all here in the city and he doesn't even bother with them.
We have actionable intel out of Cobblepot. Prototype grenades hidden in the Justice Day stage at the stadium.
Hiding contraband isn't always about the last place authorities would think to search, but also putting it in an easily recoverable place. A public arena set up for celebrating heroes isn't one of those places. Deadshot insists on smashing up the Green Lantern dummy, since he has a grudge against the guy for putting him in prison. If you want me to be sympathetic toward Deadshot, you need to make his incarceration seem unjust. A lot of criminals have children they haven't seen in years. He was still a murderer for hire. It sounds like you deserve to go to prison to me. You were so caught up in your reputation as an assassin that you killed the other Deadshot instead of letting him take the fall for you.
You shouldn't be here.
Yeah, we know, lady.
Then why are you still in the city?
Because they can't leave or their heads explode. You spoke with Waller right after meeting them in the inner sanctum, and you knew who she was, so you have to know how she operates. If I were to get a nickel every time a game implemented Pokeballs for humans this year, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's really weird that one of those is a Justice League game. Gizmo is here to build flying cars that explode after a few seconds of using them in combat. Penguin is a more solid contribution to the team than the genius inventor.
I'm releasing the limiters on your nanite bombs. You have the run of the island. That means you're clear to go after Green Lantern.
Waller gives the team the, no pun intended, green light to take on Green Lantern, even though you have no way of doing so right now. Luckily, this does open up the rest of the city for them to explore without their heads exploding if they go out of previously set boundaries. With that in mind, they head to LexCorp, where the neurobombs were made, hoping they can find a way to remove them and escape Waller. But they were actually dancing to Waller's tune regardless, because she anticipated them heading to LexCorp and takes the opportunity to raid it in order to gain Lex Luthor's files on Brainiac. Waller's choice to manipulate rather than command outright plays brilliantly into her hands. She leverages the bombs in their heads as not just a means of control, but as a psychological tool, proving that sometimes the illusion of choice is the most powerful leash of all. Or, more likely, the writers just forgot in their excitement of writing a dramatic bait and switch that Waller can simply order them to head to LexCorp and do all this, or their heads will explode, instead of tricking them with their own desire for freedom. If your team of misfits is called the Suicide Squad because they are sent on missions with a low chance of survival, should at least one of them die in order to drive that point home? Instead, Lex detonates the bomb he had in his top researcher's skull to keep his information secure. I'm not sure why the guy didn't remove the neurobomb from himself. He had the equipment to do so right there.
Oh, those bombs ain't coming out.
Waller destroys a machine for removing neurobombs, which the researchers stated was one of a kind and state-of-the-art. So unintentionally, Waller just made it clear Task Force X will never be free, even if they accomplish their mission, since there's no machine to remove the bombs.
Well, Ivy was in here, boss. Maybe we could ask her.
Harley knew Lex Luthor was keeping Poison Ivy here, and that she'd already escaped before even opening the door to Ivy's room.
There's my...
I know that in the comics, Harley and Ivy have been in a relationship, but where in the Arkham universe did they find time for that? They had one brief interaction in Arkham Asylum, and another in Arkham Knight prequel DLC. Throughout both of those interactions, it was during a time when Harley was infatuated with the Joker. Where was there ever time for these two to have been in a relationship before Ivy's death? Hell, Harley aided Scarecrow back then. The guy who technically killed Ivy. Is there any guilt over that association?
I don't know you, but my pheromones remember you. Strange emotions.
Tell me about it. Wasn't expecting you to come in fun size.
And now it's a little creepy.
That's why they call you Poison Ivy.
It's just Ivy. Weirdo.
This clone of Poison Ivy states that her name is simply Ivy, but the subtitles always name her as Poison Ivy, so I guess the devs didn't get the message.
What did he want?
Weapons, making them more effective against the alien invaders.
Most of the characters in this game exist for the sole purpose of upgrading weapons, or supplying them, even Poison Ivy. So far all I've accomplished is build my own personal black market weapon store staffed by short people.
Daphne uses nutrients from dead baddies to build up something I call an affliction. It's really effective at chilling the fluid in meat bodies.
Plants can freeze things. How does that work? What logic are you utilizing?
We're all villains here,
With you so far.
but injecting a little girl with a brain bomb, that seemed like a lot to anyone else?
And not any little girl, my little girl.
I don't know. Harley once injected children with her boyfriend's poisoned blood, so this doesn't seem like something she would have a crisis of conscience over. Boomerang chipped Ivy using the Speed Force to do it faster than any of the team could see. It's one of those abilities that would come in handy in the game if he can inject a neurobomb into someone's head in the blink of an eye, but he only uses it this once. Go along, little upgrade vendor. Off to base now to cease being a character of value.
All the evidence points to Poison Ivy. Alive. Interesting.
Batman has been reduced to a Far Cry radio villain. He's constantly on the air antagonizing you, but never actively does anything. Ivy froze some Argus soldiers with her plant spores before her capture, which conflicts with what she told you when you were helping her use the same ice spores on Brainiac soldiers, that humans wouldn't be affected by the spores. And now you need to collect those frozen soldiers so she can research them to continue developing her plant-based powers for your weapons. That bus's flying animation is like someone dragging an object around in Gmod. They track Lex's heartbeat all the way to a glowing gadget on top of a building, which clearly isn't a heartbeat, but they touch it anyway and are locked into stasis by it.
Harley, no!
Worth it.
Deadshot says no, but the writers say yes. Don't worry about it. It's okay if she does it.
Tell Waller to stay out of my way. If you'll excuse me, my plan to neutralize the Justice League starts now.
What was Lex even doing out here, luring the squad to this stasis trap? He claims this is where his fight against the Justice League begins. All he had was a minigun on his battlesuit. Then he gets one-shotted by Flash, which is also what should happen to the entire Suicide Squad since this evil Flash wouldn't be holding back.
Take the shot already.
That's the Flash? You might as well post him the bullet.
Says the same guy who tried fighting the Flash with boomerangs. Flash did die to a bullet once, so I wouldn't look down my nose at shooting him. Besides, that's all I can do in this game, so killing him with a bullet is what's on the menu.
You will have Luthor ASAP.
I would assume when the Flash tells you that he will have someone ASAP, he really means it. But instead of delivering Luthor to Brainiac for interrogation, he spends all of his time trolling the Suicide Squad by sticking Luthor in a shipping container that they have to fight a giant cannon monster to get to. Flash has all of his fingers despite Boomerang severing one of them earlier. Every Flash going forward is going to be depicted in the most annoying Ezra Miller way possible, isn't he?
That artillery is going to wreak havoc on our front line. If there's a snowball's chance in hell you can destroy it, I expect you to.
One slow-firing artillery cannon is going to wreak havoc on your front line. To destroy Brainiac's artillery cannon, you must kill enemies and collect points from them, that you then feed into the gun to buy a glowing weak point. The game tries to dress it up a bit, but that is what you were essentially doing. I'm sure that shipping container was lined with padding and a complete disregard for physics to keep Luthor from dying. Lex possessed an anti-Speed Force device, but I guess he didn't have it turned on when Flash attacked him and locked him in a shipping container. With Flash stunned and not moving, the entire Suicide Squad, including Deadshot, who is supposed to never miss, forget how to aim and fail to shoot a man on his back.
At least I'm not a big hero turned stooge for a spaceman.
Do you not see the irony in your claim? You are a stooge for a government agent. Flash phases Lex's heart out of his body faster than anyone can see, then immediately forgot he can do that when it comes to killing the Suicide Squad, and just runs in a circle around them until Wonder Woman arrives to stop him.
You have to kill us, Diana. We have to die to save the world.
Flash's eyes briefly lost their evil shading while answering Diana's question under the effects of the lasso. That's a pretty classic sign that the real one is still in there. Not that it matters, since you still have to act on this new information and kill them anyways. No looking for an alternative allowed.
Award-winning journalist Lois Lane.
Okay, look, I'll let you out. Forgive me if I don't stay around to shake hands.
You're a journalist. Why wouldn't you want to stick around and ask them questions about what they know given what's happening? Instead, Lois Lane opens the container Wonder Woman locked them inside and runs away so she can ask questions over an office computer monitor. Perhaps if the developers had spent less time modeling alt costumes for the team, they could have modeled Lois Lane's lower body so she could appear in person. Hero just walks around Metropolis and right up to the Hall of Justice like an alien invasion isn't going on, hoping to fanboy over the Justice League instead of despair over the death of tens of millions of people in his vicinity. He somehow also failed to notice that the Justice League are evil now, since he came here to get Flash's autograph, using Lex's anti-Speed Force tech that he found and salvaged. Add another kid to the growing list of short tech merchants in this organization.
I want you to make more. 4 of them. We're gonna capture the Flash.
Hero has a bomb in his head now. You can say exactly what the anti-Speed Force tech will be used for, and it won't matter because you'll explode his head if he doesn't. Also, his naivete is short-lived, because he doesn't seem to care once you begin killing the Justice League members. To create the anti-Speed Force decouplers, Toyman tells him he needs to collect data shards from aliens who were exposed to the Flash. This makes no sense because he fixed the anti-Speed Force device with none of this, and we're not collecting materials to make more, just data.
Hack, we need you to link up Waller's phone to every TV screen in Metropolis.
Is that so difficult that you need the world's best hacker to do it? Lois Lane has been managing that with nothing but her cell phone throughout this crisis.
When I think of the Justice League, I think of Wonder Woman, Superman, Green Lantern, Batman. You don't want to mess with that lot. But you, Barry, you're just the team mascot, aren't you, mate? The comic relief.
With Aquaman nowhere to be seen in the Justice League, Flash has to play the part of the Rube, despite him being one of the most overwhelmingly powerful members of it. How exactly can Boomerang use his Speed Force gauntlet unimpeded by the decoupler while Flash is suppressed by it? Boomerang is wearing the damn thing, but has zero problem using the Speed Force. And we just saw when Toyman was introduced that it repels Boomerang when he rushed in using the Speed Force. Fighting the Flash requires you to keep your anti-Speed Force decoupler's battery charged by shooting the Flash with counter bullets, which then apparently slows him down enough so you can shoot him with regular bullets. For a developer who put together some amazing boss fight encounters in previous Arkham games, this is sadder than I imagined it to be.
Show a little class, man. Holy shit. Congratulations.
Flash saved their lives twice, and they failed to save his in return from Batman. Now they piss on his corpse while the game makes a joke about Boomerang having a huge one. Remember this when they're having a big cry over Wonder Woman. Is there really any surprise that people were pissed over how these characters were handled? The students who got C- in creative writing class have some new dialogue they've written. Let's give it a listen.
To my massive and disappointingly male fan base.
Brainiac opens up a portal to another dimension for some reason just as Green Lantern is about to kill the team in retribution for Flash, and they all escape through it. I'm struggling to understand these 12th level intellect moves of his. Multiverses are boring and no longer the interesting hinge you think they are. All it does is give writers an easy way of replacing characters they've killed off, which is what it's used for here, as the heartbeat tracker for Lex Luthor activates in this world, so they follow that to this universe's Lex, who needs help escaping this doomed world to theirs. The game introduces escort missions as if they're a new idea that hasn't been abandoned for good reason. They seem to believe as long as you're escorting a slow-moving vehicle, it's alright to do it multiple times for the remainder of the game. Lex had to drive his mobile laboratory all the way to what remained of Lex Tower before activating it. Seems like he could have switched it on back inside the Hall of Justice where we found him. The only reason I can think of is to make sure he appeared inside this world's Lex Tower instead of in the Hall of Justice where Waller is based, and who he doesn't want to run into, but that's something he shouldn't be aware of.
We killed Flash. You're welcome. And got sent to another frickin' dimension for our trouble.
You were there? How in the hell did you get back?
Well, funny you should ask that, cause... Hold the line, hun.
Waller will never follow up on asking how they managed to get back from a different universe. I don't think I would forget about something like that.
I was enlisted into her schemes just like you.
Answer me!
Her choices got you all killed.
Strange that this Lex would still be alive if he had been recruited by Waller and had a neurobomb injected into his skull, because I assume Waller is dead in his world, and the bombs detonate if she dies.
Get this into the inner sanctum computer. I can prove your Waller's the same type of monster.
How exactly does this hacking device work? Boomerang just sticks it under the desk near the Justice League computer, so it's never connected directly to it, meaning it only needs to be in the vicinity of the computer to hack it, so there was no need to risk being caught while distracting Waller and Rick Flag to place it and then remove it once finished. He could have just stood there with it in his pocket.
Oh. Was this,
Bax? Yeah. Stringing up folks is kind of his go-to.
Not before he half crippled them.
A murderer for hire criticizing Batman for beating criminals while subduing them is a level of painful irony I'm not sure the writer was aware of. When you have custom wrist-mounted guns and a costume to go along with your nickname, you are dedicated to being a criminal in ways you clearly enjoy. Lex directs them to Wayne Bank, where they find all the employees dead, but the vault is still locked, but inside they find Wonder Woman, hammering kryptonite into her shield, meaning she closed and locked the vault door behind her when she came in. Excellent craftsmanship, but why go to all the effort of making the kryptonite decorative?
Your friends are beyond saving. How many more lives will be lost while you try and fail?
I do not need a lecture on morality from a shark.
Shark is the most moral person on the team. I don't even know what his crimes were. Did all the events of the Arkham series go down exactly the same in this Lex's universe? He knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and even knew the location of this secret vault where Batman kept his Justice League countermeasures. Lex uses the hacked computer to show them Waller discussing taking control of Brainiac's mind control technology and using it to control metahumans like the Suicide Squad, even if they finish their mission, convincing them to help Lex, even though he doesn't promise to remove their bombs. In fact, he doesn't really promise them anything to help them out of the situation of being mind controlled by Waller after all this is over. Batman made Yellow Lantern batteries as a contingency against Green Lantern going rogue. He just so happened to make 4 of them too. Also, since Batman created and stored these contingency plans to neutralize the Justice League in his vault, why didn't he collect them to make sure no one could use them after killing all the workers here? The Green Lantern fight is nothing but a shooting gallery. You have to destroy all of his constructs to break his will before his personal shield will fall, so you can then shoot him to death. Cool scene, but it breaks every rule regarding the Green Lantern rings. After a lantern dies, the ring will fly away in search of a new owner, and that person must have a strong will and courage to use the power, which I don't think King Shark embodies since he's currently doing Waller's dirty work due to fear of having his head blown off. But here he can just yank the ring off and put it on, and use the Green Lantern power despite not possessing the qualities you need. Granted, he does lose control of the shark he creates to destroy the Skull Ship shield, but I don't think he would have gotten that far if lore was being respected. Also, Shark is wearing a Yellow Lantern battery that should interfere with him being able to call upon the Green Lantern power to make a Shark construct powerful enough to break through Brainiac's shield. You could just shoot the Shark construct, you know. You have Yellow Lantern batteries. I just went through a boss fight where I had to shoot them left and right. We almost got to do something more fun than shoot aliens for the umpteenth time.
Your sentences will be posthumously commuted in recognition of your efforts.
Waller fires a nuke at the Skull Ship now that the shield is down, intending to destroy it even at the cost of the lives of the Suicide Squad. But last I checked, she's in Metropolis as well, so she signed her own death warrant too. Superman catches the missile right before it reaches the ship. Nukes don't require physical contact with their target. They have a massive explosive radius, so they detonate quite a distance from their intended target. Superman flies the nuke into the sky where it detonates, showing that the real Superman is still in there. But once again, this won't matter at all to the story, so I wonder why they keep showing us this. You only show me that the good guy is still in there if you plan to save him in a dramatic fashion.
My convoy is pinned down on the way to the Hall of Justice. Get us clear ASAP.
Waller fired that nuke while she was driving around in a vehicle a few blocks away. That was even more suicidal on her part. I might have ignored the escort mission in the middle of the fight between Superman and Wonder Woman if it had been more about dodging them than mowing down more aliens. Superman is no longer weak to green kryptonite. He should still be weak to having a large crystal shoved through his heart though, but that doesn't seem to be the case either, since he kills Wonder Woman and flies off. Wonder Woman gets the only dignified death out of the entire Justice League, like we've been playing games featuring her for years or something. Somehow Wonder Woman's heroic sacrifice has less impact and accomplishes less than Ivy's did in Arkham Knight. They even both turn to ash after dying.
It's, the consequences of corruption.
Lex gets on the wire to talk Boomerang through a speech to Waller about how Superman's DNA was changed by Brainiac, removing his weakness to kryptonite. But by studying Batman and the changes made to his DNA, Lex might be able to create a new weakness for Superman. You would think that with this developer's history, Batman would have an important place in the plot, but here he's nothing but a stepping stone to get to Superman.
He's probably holed up in one of his bat caves.
If it's something in the earth, I can find it. Oh, but Harley and her friends have to help.
In order to find the Batcave, Ivy needs you to repeat that mission where you protect her plants.
You're not getting in there without Batman's biometric signature. Or the Batmobile.
You could probably just use that hacking device Lex gave you, but instead, Gizmo just happens to have a Batmobile they can use to spoof Batman's electronic signature to access his Batcave. How was this Batcave ever kept secret when it's under the stairs right next to the street?
This hologram's activation means that I, probably the entire Justice League, have gone rogue.
If Bruce recorded this in case he along with the entire Justice League went rogue, then he would probably just delete the recording and never send it. Or he should have. Just like he should have destroyed the Yellow Lantern, Speed Force decoupler, and Kryptonite. But Brainiac's Batman is uncharacteristically stupid. Interestingly, Batman never came up with a countermeasure for Wonder Woman. I guess she alone was unlikely to ever go rogue.
There is no anti-Batman device.
A bullet in the head seems like a pretty effective anti-Batman device. Robin is in a state of Schrodinger's death. He clearly lost the fight, but whether or not he's dead will depend on if they find a use for him in the DLC, or if the post-game content goes on long enough for him to come up again. Batman releases fear gas into the Batcave, because we couldn't just forget about that ending of Arkham Knight now, could we? Even if it has no relevance now. Batman would have been better off filling the room with carbon monoxide. Harley directs him to turn on the fear gas pumps in the Batcave to flood it with more fear gas, which he somehow knows they can do, and that they can even create a new mix of fear gas, even though none of them have seen the hardware or know how to use it. Harley explains how she learned about fear gas from Scarecrow in Arkham. In order for this dumb explanation to have remotely worked, Harley would have first needed to use her knowledge before this point so it wasn't a random Deus Ex Machina. Second, of all the things Harley did in Arkham, she became pen pals with Scarecrow, the guy responsible for killing Ivy, Harley's girlfriend. What was she even planning to do with fear gas? Batman is somehow worse than Scarecrow at using fear gas. Honestly, it was more intimidating when Batman was using his own techniques and gadgets to hunt you in the Batman experience level. This might have been a decent Scarecrow boss fight, but it makes for a terrible Batman boss fight. They really just threw everything out the window and pretended they could sneak Scarecrow into the game by having Batman do the part instead. Missed opportunity to have the Suicide Squad taunt Batman's defeat from first person like they did in the Arkham games.
Now listen, what we definitely shouldn't do is put him in some kind of elaborate death trap situation.
What?
Trust me, been there.
You should also know to remove his equipment belt, but you don't do that, do you? Batman fireman carrying Harley must have been a more memorable scene for the writers than the rest of us, and must have greatly upset them, because it's clearly meant to be demeaning to Batman. Joke's on them. Batman just proves that he's far more caked up than Harley ever was.
I'll need a clear brain scan to set the baseline before the more invasive procedures.
Lex is able to scan Batman's brain and carry out very invasive procedures without removing Batman's suit.
I am vengeance. I am...
Best joke in the game. After sending you to do side quests for a bit while he scanned Batman's brain and DNA, Lex was able to develop a new form of kryptonite that will weaken Superman. Gold kryptonite. Personally, I would prefer the pink kryptonite Lex has in his lab that makes Superman have a college experience.
So where are we supposed to do this thing, people?
Considering Superman's super hearing and X-ray vision, it probably should have been right here, right now.
Wouldn't be the weirdest shit I ever done in a park.
The writers love writing dirty jokes for Harley, but in the Arkham universe, her only known boyfriend was Joker, so stop making me imagine the implications. They make a racket moving the boxes. It was on a pushcart. I get this was supposed to be funny, but they're dragging a joke out when all they had to do was will it out of there. You must now escort Batman in a self-driving car to the park where you plan to kill Superman. They've given Batman so many opportunities to escape from them that it exceeds my disbelief. I've always thought Batman's brilliance when it comes to getting out of a tricky situation was a bit BS, but here they're practically courting it and nothing ever happens.
You had a good run, Brucey. Flying around Gotham, punching bad guys, cleaning up the streets.
Yeah, I'd call those games a pretty good run. Shame it had to end with this.
Causing long-term mental and emotional damage to everyone you knew. It's our turn now.
Oh, there's some harm being carried out here. Normally, this kind of contempt for your customer is reserved for chemical companies giving entire towns cancer through illegal dumping. This makes Bruce's fears about what would happen if Joker took control of him back in Arkham Knight seem egotistical. Turns out you can just shoot the guy and it's no big deal. Why is there the sound of a casing hitting the pavement? Harley used a revolver, which doesn't eject casings. One gunshot is enough to draw out Superman. I've been shooting guns this entire game and it never drew him to me. Apparently a bullet entering Batman's skull has a very unique sound. Did Superman move the planet so it would be daytime or something? If he can do that, then the Earth should have been subjugated in a matter of days. Instead, Brainiac kept Superman in reserve for 3 weeks. You fight Superman the same way you fought Flash. Counter him, which adds a damage modifier to him due to the gold kryptonite bullets. Then shoot him to death. Brainiac could have stopped the Suicide Squad anytime he wanted, but waited until after they killed the Justice League to act.
New Kolu will be reborn in your universe. in every universe. I'm making it a universal constant.
Question: why does New Colu have to be on Earth? Surely, with the entire universe, there has to be some unoccupied world you could have picked to terraform into a new homeworld. Instead, you've picked Earth in every universe. Shouldn't there be a universe where Colu still exists and therefore you don't have to remake it? Brainiac plans to mind control them just like he did the Justice League. Here's where that parallel, them already being controlled by Waller, could have come into play, but instead Lex teleports them away to save them.
13 Brainiacs. Even if you were to somehow defeat one, your fight is far from over.
We get to keep killing him over and over!
13 times the payback.
An eternal conflict.
This is beautiful, Lexi.
Why are you guys so excited over this news? You already know Waller has no plans to reduce your sentences and let you go.
Waller don't have a clue.
They actually did the "she's right behind me, isn't she" joke.
What did I tell you about playing dumbass double agents?
You're our daddy.
What is it going to take to convince Waller to blow their heads up? Working in secret with Lex was a pretty blatant betrayal. Waller is coming across as all bitch and no bite.
And if anything happens to this Lex Luthor, the building goes with him.
Did the Lex Luthor of this universe set up that failsafe? Because the building didn't explode when Flash phased his heart out.
I've had Hack working on how to integrate the Argus and LexCorp networks. Turns out someone already did that for me.
They took that LexCorp hacking device with them after it finished the job. So why does Waller have it? Also, does she not care about what they learned while the Argus computer was hacked? No suspicions about what might have convinced them to help Lex?
Incursions will require significant quantities of an unstable element called promethium.
In order to fight the final boss, you must pay an in-game toll fee that you collect by doing side jobs. All of the missions you've done before, like destroying an artillery cannon and escorting a truck. Then you can open a portal to one of the 13 Brainiacs. And if you fail to defeat Brainiac, you have to do it all over again for another attempt. Honestly, the game should have ended with the Superman fight and saved all this for later. Once you enter Brainiac's domain, you have to complete more objectives because they really don't want you to reach the final boss. Not because you'll stop playing once you're done, but because you learn they reuse the Flash fight. Why would Brainiac knowingly transform into the Flash when he has to be aware that they have Speed Force decouplers that they already used to beat the real Flash? Brainiac runs out of air. I think this is a metaphor for how this game was made. They've been leaving a lot of hints that Lex might not be who he says he is, but for that reveal left for the DLC, you have to wonder if Warner Brothers will support the game long enough to resolve it.
With a focus on non-recurring anomalies unique to each dimension.
I was going to make a joke about how this is what the experience of downloading the game's future DLC will be like, but with the way Lex explains it, I think that's what canonically just happened.
So, we get to play with a bunch of cool shit from alternate universes, and then what? Retire?
Once you've defeated all 13 Brainiacs?
I picked the wrong year to launch DLC Sins, coming soon on Patreon, along with Classic Sins. I'll let you know when it goes live.
This is how it happened. This is how the Batman died.